The space station floated in the darkness between stars. It was called Omega 9, and it was the largest trading hub in 12 star systems. Ships from 100 different worlds came and went every day. But the station belonged to the Velthari, and everyone knew it. The Velthari were not like other aliens. Their bodies were made of living crystal. They stood 3 meters tall and glowed with soft light from within. They had ruled this part of the galaxy for 3,000 years, and they believed they were better than everyone else. In many ways, they were right. On this particular day, a small human ship docked at the station. It was old and battered, covered in scratches from years of travel through space. The humans had only been traveling between stars for about 200 years. To the Velthari, they were children, babies, not worth talking to. 3 humans walked off the ship and into the great hall of the station. The first was a woman named Una. She was 34 years old, not very tall, with black hair tied back in a simple ponytail. She wore a plain gray uniform with no decorations. She was the leader of this small group, and she worked as a systems engineer for the Korean Space Authority. Back on Earth, behind her walked a thin man named Taiho. He had messy hair and tired eyes, like he never slept enough. He carried an old bag over his shoulder, and inside the bag was a laptop computer that had seen better days. Taiho was a programmer. He was very good at his job, but he did not look impressive at all. The third person was a woman named Jisoo. She was younger than the others, maybe 28, and she was their communications expert. She carried a small recording device and was quietly saying everything she saw and heard. The great hall was enormous. The ceiling was so high that clouds actually formed near the top. Hundreds of aliens from different species walked through the space, conducting business and making deals. But when the humans entered, many of them stopped to stare. Humans were rare out here. Most species thought they were too primitive to bother with. A Velthari approached them. He was taller than the others of his kind, and his crystal body glowed with a cold blue light. His name was Orvith, and he was the ambassador for the Velthari Collective. When he spoke, his voice sounded like someone hitting a glass with a spoon. "You are the humans," Orvith said. It was not a question. "Yes," Una replied. "We are here to discuss trade agreements. Our governments believe we can help each other." Orvith made a sound that might have been laughter. "Help each other? Your species has been in space for 200 years. We have been here for 3,000. What could you possibly offer us?" Una kept her face calm. She had expected this. New perspectives. Different ways of thinking. Trade goods from Earth. "We have everything we need," Orvith said. "Your perspectives do not interest us. Your goods are primitive. There is nothing you have that we want." Taiho shifted his weight from one foot to the other. He looked uncomfortable, but he stayed quiet. Jisoo kept recording. Orvith turned and began to walk away. Then he stopped, as if he had just remembered something. He turned back to face the humans. "Actually," he said, "there is one thing. A tradition we have. A test." He waved his hand, and suddenly a huge holographic display appeared in the air in front of them. It showed lines of code, symbols, and letters that twisted and moved like living things. The code was beautiful in a strange way, constantly shifting and changing patterns. "This is the eternal lock," Orvith announced. "It is the heart of our security system. Every important secret of our civilization is protected by this code. For 1,000 years, we have made the same offer to every species that wanted our respect." He paused and looked down at the humans. The light inside his crystal body pulsed slowly. "Break this code," Orvith said, "and we will treat you as equals. We will open full trade. We will share our knowledge, everything." Una looked at the code flowing across the display. She did not understand it at all. The symbols were completely alien to her. Many have tried, Orvith continued. The Dravosi spent 400 years trying to break it. They are one of the oldest species in the galaxy, with minds far superior to yours. They failed. The gas breathers of Cygnus brought their greatest scientists. They failed. Every single species that has tried has failed. He leaned down until his face was close to Eunice. The cold light from his body made her skin look pale. This code is unbreakable, he said. It is mathematically perfect. There is no computer in the galaxy powerful enough to crack it. No mind smart enough to solve it. It is simply impossible. Una looked at Taiho. He was staring at the code with a strange expression on his face. Not scared. Not worried. Just thoughtful. Can we try? She asked Orvith. The ambassador made that glass-hitting glass laugh again. Of course you can try. It will be entertaining. We will give you 1 hour. Taiho looked at Una and nodded slightly. He opened his old bag and took out his laptop. It was scratched and worn. Some of the keys were faded from years of use. Compared to the glowing alien technology all around them, it looked like a toy. Several Velthari nearby stopped what they were doing to watch. A few of them made sounds of amusement. Taiho sat down on the floor, crossed his legs, and put the laptop on his knees. He pulled out a small device from his bag and connected it to the computer with a wire. Then he started typing. Orvith watched with something like pity in his glowing eyes. What is he doing? Una smiled. His job. Taiho sat on the cold floor of the great hall with his laptop on his knees. His fingers moved quickly across the keyboard. The screen showed lines of code that looked nothing like the alien symbols on the holographic display above him. A crowd had gathered to watch. Velthari and other aliens formed a circle around the 3 humans. Some of them whispered to each other. Most of them were laughing quietly. This was entertainment for them. Watching primitive humans fail at an impossible task, Orvith stood with his arms crossed. The light inside his crystal body pulsed with amusement. Your device cannot even read our code structure, he said. You are wasting your time. Taiho did not look up. He kept typing. Eunice stood next to him with her hands behind her back. She looked calm, but inside she was nervous. Everything depended on the next few minutes. If Taiho was wrong, their mission would be over. They would go home with nothing. Jisoo moved through the crowd slowly, still recording everything. She watched the faces of the aliens around her. They all looked so sure of themselves, so confident that this would end in human failure. 15 minutes have passed, Orvith announced. You have 45 minutes remaining. Though I doubt it will take that long for you to give up. Taiho finally spoke, but he was talking to Una, not to Orvith. I found what I was looking for. Una nodded. Tell me. The code is real. It really is unbreakable. No point trying to crack it directly. Orvith made that glass-like laugh again. Even your own expert admits it. Why continue? Taiho kept typing. But I am not trying to break the code. I am looking at something else. Una turned to face Orvith. Ambassador, I have a question. When was the last time you updated your security system? Orvith seemed confused by the question. Update it? Why would we update it? It has never been broken. It works perfectly. The code works perfectly, Una agreed. But what about everything else? The machines that run the code? The power systems? The cooling systems? The maintenance programs? For the first time, Orvath's light flickered with something that might have been uncertainty. Those systems are not relevant. The code is what matters. Jisoo stepped forward. She had been quiet until now, but she wanted to help explain. On Earth, we have a saying. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Your code is very strong. But what about the chain it hangs from? Orvith did not answer. He was watching Taiho now with more attention than before. On Taiho's laptop screen, windows were opening and closing rapidly. He was not looking at the alien code anymore. He was looking at something simpler, something more basic. "Your encryption is beautiful," Taiho said, still not looking up. "Truly, I have never seen anything like it. The mathematics behind it are far beyond what we have on Earth. You should be proud of it." "We are proud of it," Orvis said coldly. "But here's the thing," Taiho continued. "Code does not exist by itself. It has to run on something. Hardware, physical machines. And physical machines need support systems, power, cooling, maintenance." He turned his laptop around so Orvis could see the screen. It showed a simple diagram. Boxes connected by lines. It was a map of the station's physical infrastructure. "Your encryption is 3,000 years old and impossible to break," Taiho said. "But the firmware running your cooling system? That uses a protocol so old, my grandfather would recognize it. It has not been changed in 400 years. Why would you change it? Nobody ever got past your perfect code." Orvath's crystal body went dark for a moment. Then it lit up again, brighter than before. "You cannot access our cooling systems. They are protected by the same security. They are protected by the same network," Taiho corrected him. "But they are not protected by the same code. You use the eternal lock for your important secrets. But for basic maintenance, you use something much simpler, something automatic, something that does not need the same level of protection, because who would bother attacking a cooling system?" He turned his laptop back around and typed a few more commands. "Someone who does not want to break down your front door," Una said. "Someone who would rather climb in through the window." On the holographic display above them, the alien code suddenly flickered. The patterns stopped flowing smoothly. They jerked and stuttered like a broken video. The crowd went quiet. Every alien in the hall stopped talking. "What is happening?" Orvith demanded. His voice was no longer calm. "I told the cooling system to shut down," Taiho said simply. "Just for a few seconds. Just the cooling system for the servers that run your security network." The holographic display flickered again. Then, without any warning, it went completely dark. A new window appeared. It was small and simple. Just a few lines of text. An error message. "System overheat detected. Security protocol suspended. Please contact maintenance." The eternal lock had not been broken. It had been turned off. Total silence filled the great hall. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The Valthari stood frozen like statues, their crystal bodies dark with shock. Taiho closed his laptop and put it back in his bag. Then he stood up and brushed off his pants. "We did not break your code," he said to Orvith. "You were right. It is unbreakable. But we did not need to break it. We just needed to ask a different question." Orvath's voice came out as a whisper. "What question?" Taiho pushed his messy hair out of his eyes and shrugged. "You asked if we could break it. We asked if we could turn it off." The answer was yes. Una stepped forward. She could see the shock on Orvath's face, the confusion in the crowd around them. This was a dangerous moment. The Velthari were proud. They could react badly to this embarrassment. She spoke carefully and respectfully. "Ambassador, we did not come here to humiliate you. We came here to show you what we can offer. A different way of thinking." Orvith said nothing. His crystal body slowly started to glow again, but the light was different now. Uncertain, troubled. "Your code is perfect," Una continued. "We could never create something like that. But we see things you do not see. The small details. The weak points. The human perspective." She paused and let her words sink in. "That is what we can offer you. A partnership. Not to replace what you have built, but to make it stronger. To complete it." The crowd started to murmur. Some of the Velthari were angry. Others looked thoughtful. A few even looked impressed. Orvith stared at Una for a long time. Then he turned and walked away without saying another word. The test was over. Now the real work would begin. The next morning, Una was called to the council chamber. She went alone, leaving Taiho and Jisoo at their small quarters near the docking bay. The walk through the station took almost an hour. She passed through markets filled with alien goods, restaurants serving food she could not name, and parks where strange plants grew under artificial sunlight. The council chamber was at the very center of the station. It was a massive room with walls made of pure crystal. Light bounced and reflected everywhere, creating rainbows in every corner. 12 Velthari sat in a circle on floating platforms. Orvith was among them. While Una stood in the center of the circle. She felt very small. "Human," said one of the council members. His crystal body was darker than the others, almost purple. "Do you understand what you have done?" "Yes," Una said. "We completed your challenge." "You cheated," said another council member, this one with a body that glowed red. "Did we?" Una asked calmly. "You said to break the code. You did not say how. You did not give us rules. You only gave us a goal." The red one made an angry sound like breaking glass. The goal was clear. The code was meant to be broken through intelligence and computing power, not through tricks. "With respect," Una said, "you assumed how we would try. That was your mistake, not ours." The chamber went quiet. Nobody had ever spoken to the council like this before. Orvith leaned forward on his platform. "Explain your thinking, human. Help us understand." Una took a deep breath. She had prepared for this moment. Everything depended on her words now. "Your species has lived in peace for 3,000 years, she began. "You have had time to build perfect systems, perfect mathematics, perfect code. You solve problems through pure logic and intelligence. You look at a challenge and find the best solution." She paused and looked around the circle. Humans did not have that luxury. Our world was harsh. Everything wanted to kill us. Animals, weather, disease, even other humans. We did not have time to find the best solution. We had to find any solution, fast. A younger Velthari on one of the lower platforms leaned forward with interest. Her crystal body was blue, which meant she was young by their standards. Her name was Ithara. She had been assigned to watch the humans as a minor task, but now she was paying close attention. "So you learned to cut corners," Ithara said. It was not an insult. She sounded curious. "Yes," Una agreed. "We learned to cheat, to trick, to find shortcuts. We learned that sometimes the fastest way through a wall is not to break it down. Sometimes it is better to find a crack and squeeze through." The purple council member spoke again. "This is not honorable." "Maybe not," Una said, "but it kept us alive. And it made us see things differently." She pointed at the walls around them. "Look at this chamber. It is beautiful, perfect. But let me ask you something. How do you clean it?" The council members looked at each other. They did not understand the question. "What do you mean?" Orvith asked. "The walls, the floors, the platforms you sit on. They get dirty over time. Someone has to clean them. How does that happen?" "Maintenance drones," Orvith said slowly. "They come at night when the chamber is empty." "And how do those drones get in?" Silence. "There must be doors," Una continued. "Small ones, hidden, for the drones and the workers who fix things when they break. Those doors have their own locks, their own security. Are those locks as perfect as the eternal lock?" Nobody answered. But Una could see she had made her point. "Every system has gaps," she said. "Places where the perfect meets the practical. where the ideal meets the real. Humans are very good at finding those gaps. Not because we are smarter than you. We are definitely not smarter than you. But because we have been trained by millions of years of desperation to look for them. Ithara stood up from her platform. I find this fascinating, she said. On my world, we have a concept called the pure path. It means solving a problem in the most elegant way, using only logic and mathematics. Shortcuts are considered a failure. On Earth, we have a different saying, Una replied. If it works, it is not stupid. A few of the council members made sounds of disgust, but Ithara laughed. It was a pleasant sound, like wind chimes. I think I understand now, Ithara said. Your species does not compete on the same level as others. You compete on a different level entirely. You change the rules of the game. Exactly, Una said. We cannot beat you at mathematics. We cannot beat you at code. But we can ask questions you never thought to ask. We can see problems you never knew existed. Orvith raised his hand, and the chamber went quiet again. You make an interesting argument, human. But words are easy. The real question is whether your different way of thinking has value to us. It already does, Una said. Yesterday, Taiho found a weakness in your security that has existed for 400 years. In 1 hour, using a cheap laptop computer. How many other weaknesses are there? How many gaps that you cannot see because you are too focused on perfection? She stepped forward toward Orvath's platform. We are not asking to replace your way of doing things. We are asking to add to it. Let us work with your engineers. Let us show them how to think like humans. How to look for the gaps. Together, we could build systems that are both perfect and practical. Both elegant and secure. Orvath looked at her for a long moment. Then he looked at the other council members. We will discuss this, he said. You may go. Una bowed slightly and walked out of the chamber. Her heart was pounding, but she kept her face calm. Outside, Ithara was waiting for her. The young Velthari's blue crystal body glowed warmly. You did well, Ithara said. I have never seen anyone speak to the council like that. Was it too much? Una asked. Ithara made a sound that might have been a smile. It was perfect. You were honest. You did not beg or threaten. You simply explained. She started walking, and Una followed. I want to learn more about human thinking, Ithara said. Would you teach me? Una smiled. I would be happy to. But first, you have to answer a question. What question? How do I get back to my quarters? I am completely lost. Ithara laughed again, and together they walked through the crystal halls of the station. 3 days passed while the council discussed what to do. During this time, Una and her team were not allowed to leave the station, but they were also not prisoners. Ithara visited them every day, bringing food and news about the council debates. Orvath is against you, Ithara explained on the second day. She sat on a small chair in the humans' quarters while Una, Taiho, and Jisu listened carefully. He feels that you embarrassed the collective. He wants you to leave and never come back. What about the others? Una asked. They are divided. Some agree with Orvath, but many are thinking about what you said. Your argument about the gaps in perfect systems. It bothered them. They have started looking at their own security networks with new eyes. Taiho looked up from his laptop. He had been studying the Velthari code samples they had collected during the demonstration. They should be bothered, he said. The more I look at their systems, the more weaknesses I find. Not in the code itself. The code is amazing, but in everything around it. Power systems. Backup protocols. Access points. It is like a beautiful castle built on sand. Ithara nodded slowly. Her blue crystal body dimmed a little. This is hard for us to hear. We have believed for so long that our systems were perfect. Nothing is perfect, Jisoo said gently. Not even humans. We make mistakes all the time. But we have learned to expect those mistakes, to plan for them, to build systems that work even when things go wrong. That is such a strange way to think, Ithara said. To assume failure before it happens. It is not assuming failure, Yuna explained. It is being ready for it. There is a difference. On the third day, Ithara came with news. The council has made a decision. They want to meet with you again. Yuna stood up immediately. All of us? All of you? Including him. Ithara pointed at Taiho, who looked uncomfortable. Orvith specifically asked for the one with the laptop. The walk to the council chamber felt longer this time. Yuna noticed that more aliens were watching them. News about the human challenge had spread across the station. Some of the looks were hostile. Others were curious. A few seemed almost respectful. The chamber was the same as before, but the atmosphere was different. The council members seemed less sure of themselves. Even Orvith looked tired, his crystal body glowing less brightly than before. Human delegation, Orvith began. We have reached a decision. Yuna held her breath. We have spent 3 days examining our security systems, using your methods, looking for the gaps, as you called them. Orvith paused and took a deep breath. We found 17 critical weaknesses that we did not know existed. A murmur went through the chamber. Even some of the council members seemed surprised by this number. Your way of thinking is strange to us, Orvith continued. It goes against everything we believe about problem solving. But we cannot deny the results. You saw in 1 hour what we missed in 400 years. He stood up from his platform and floated down to the floor, standing face to face with Yuna. We have decided to accept your offer of partnership. Yuna felt a wave of relief wash over her, but she kept her face professional. Thank you, Ambassador. We will not disappoint you. The terms are these, Orvith said. Your team will work with our engineers for 6 months. You will teach them how to find weaknesses, how to think like humans. In exchange, we will share some of our mathematical knowledge with your people. Some? Yuna asked carefully. Orvith almost smiled. Almost. You did not expect us to share everything, did you? Trust must be earned over time. But what we share will advance your technology significantly. This is a fair trade. Yuna nodded. It was more than she had hoped for. There is one more thing, Orvith said. He looked at Ithara, who stepped forward to join them. I have volunteered to lead the exchange program, Ithara announced. I will work directly with your team. I will be the bridge between our peoples. Taiho looked surprised. Why you? He asked. Ithra's blue body glowed warmly. Because I am young enough to change how I think. The older ones have been doing things the same way for centuries. It is hard for them to see differently, but I am still learning. I can adapt. Over the next few weeks, everything changed. The humans were moved to better quarters. They were given access to parts of the station that no outsiders had ever seen. Valthari engineers came to study with them, and the humans studied with the Valthari in return. Taiho spent most of his time in the technology center. He worked with a Valthari engineer named Karath, an old one with a body that glowed orange. At first, Karath refused to believe that his systems had any weaknesses. But Taiho was patient. He showed Karath problem after problem, weakness after weakness. This is humiliating, Karath said one day, after Taiho found yet another gap in the security network. It is not humiliating, Taiho replied. It is learning. Every weakness we find is a weakness we can fix. That is progress. Karath was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. You are a strange species, he said. But perhaps that is a good thing. Meanwhile, Una worked with the council on the political side of things. News of the partnership had spread beyond the station. Other species were watching closely. The Dravosi sent a message asking about the human methods. The gas breathers of Cygnus requested observer status on the project. "You are making us popular," Ithara told Una one evening. "Many species are curious about humans now. They want to know how you did what 400 years of Dravosi effort could not." "We got lucky," Una said honestly. "Taiho is brilliant, but even he was surprised it worked so easily." "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity," Ithara said. Another human saying yes? "I have been reading about your culture." Jisoo was documenting everything. She recorded meetings, interviews, and daily life on the station. She wanted to bring the full story back to Earth. "This is history," she told Una one night. "The first real partnership between humans and a major galactic power. People need to know how it happened." "They will know," Una said. "Make sure you also record the failures, the arguments, the misunderstandings. People should see the whole truth, not just the good parts." The 6 months passed faster than anyone expected. When it was finally time to present the results, the council chamber was filled with observers from a dozen different species. News drones floated overhead, broadcasting to hundreds of worlds. Ithara presented the report. She showed the new security system they had built together. It combined Velthari mathematical perfection with human practical thinking. Every weakness had been addressed. Every gap had been filled. "This system is not just unbreakable," Ithara announced. "It is also practical. It expects failure and plans for it. It is elegant and secure. It is the best of both our peoples." The chamber erupted in discussion. Council members asked questions. Observers took notes. But Una was not watching them. She was watching Taiho, who sat quietly in the corner, typing on his old laptop. "What are you doing?" she asked him later. Taiho smiled. "Finding the weaknesses in our new system." "There are always weaknesses. The work is never finished." Una laughed. Some things never changed. 1 year had passed since the day. Taiho sat on the cold floor of the Great Hall and turned off the Unbreakable code. The galaxy was not the same place anymore. Station Omega 9 had become the center of something new. The joint human-Velthari security system was now running on every major network in 12 star systems. It had already stopped 14 attack attempts. None of them had even come close to succeeding. But more important than the technology was the change in thinking. Una stood on the observation deck of the station, looking out at the stars. Ships from dozens of worlds moved through the darkness. Trade vessels, diplomatic shuttles, research ships, and mixed among them a growing number of human vessels. "You look thoughtful," Ithara said, joining her at the window. The young Velthari had changed over the past year. She moved differently now, more relaxed, less formal. She had picked up some human habits. "I was thinking about Earth," Una said. "When I was a child, I used to look up at the stars and wonder if anyone was out there. Now I am out here, and I wonder what we will become." "Something new," Ithara replied. "That is always the answer. Every species that reaches the stars is changed by the experience. You will be no different." Taiho walked onto the observation deck, carrying a cup of coffee in one hand and his tablet in the other. He still had the same messy hair and tired eyes, but he looked happier now. He had found a place where his way of thinking was valued. "The Collective News Network just released their yearly report," he announced. "They are calling us the human factor. Apparently, that is what species are calling the new way of looking at problems." "The human factor?" Una repeated, testing the words. "I like it. They should call it the Taiho factor," Jisoo said, appearing behind them. She was holding her recording device, as always. Some things never changed. He's the one who figured it out. Taiho shook his head. I just plugged something in. The real work came after. This was true. The real work had been hard and slow. Hundreds of meetings. Thousands of arguments. Misunderstandings between species who thought differently. Cultural clashes that sometimes seemed impossible to resolve. But they had done it. Together. A chaos message appeared on Taiho's tablet. He read it and smiled. The Dravosi just signed a partnership agreement. They want us to look at their security systems next. The Dravosi? Ithara sounded surprised. They are very proud. They do not usually ask for help. Everyone asks for help eventually, Una said. That is another thing we humans learned a long time ago. Nobody succeeds alone. The observation deck slowly filled with other visitors. Aliens from different worlds, all coming to look at the stars. A group of young Velthari students passed by, and Una heard them talking excitedly about human programming techniques. Two Dravosi diplomats were discussing trade routes with a human merchant. A family of gas breathers from Cygnus floated past, their children playing some kind of gang dot. It was a small scene. Just a moment in the endless flow of time. But Una felt its weight. This was what they had worked for. Not just a business partnership. Not just a technology exchange. Something more. A beginning. Orveth approached them. The old ambassador had changed too, though less visibly. He still stood tall and proud, but there was something different in the way he looked at the humans now. Ambassador, Una said, bowing slightly. I have news, Orveth said. The council has approved the expansion of our partnership. We will open full technology sharing with Earth, all of our mathematical knowledge, all of our scientific research. In exchange, your people will send teachers to our worlds to show our young ones how to think like humans. Una was stunned. This was far beyond what they had originally hoped for. That is, very generous, Ambassador. Orveth made a sound that was almost warm. It is practical. Your way of thinking has proven valuable. We would be foolish not to embrace it fully. He paused. Besides, I have grown fond of your strange species. You see the universe differently than we do. It is refreshing. He turned to leave, then stopped. One more thing. The council has decided to remove the Eternal Lock Challenge. There is no point to it anymore. You have shown us that the question itself was wrong. When he was gone, Taiho let out a long breath. Did that just happen? It did, Jisoo confirmed. And I recorded everything. They stood together at the window, watching the stars. Una thought about all the light years between them and Earth, about all the humans who would follow in their footsteps, about all the challenges still ahead. What happens now? Ithara asked. Una smiled. Now we find the next impossible problem. And we figure out how to plug something in. Far below them, in the great hall where it had all started, a new group of visitors was arriving. They were from a distant star system, a species that had just achieved faster-than-light travel. They looked around the station with wide eyes, overwhelmed by everything they saw. A human guide approached them. She was young, maybe 20 years old, part of the new generation that had grown up knowing about the stars. Welcome to Omega 9, she said with a friendly smile. My name is Mina. I will be showing you around today. The visitors stared at her. They had heard about humans. The species that did not play by the rules. The species that asked different questions. The species that changed everything by simply plugging something in. We heard stories about your people, one of the visitors said nervously. About what you did to the Velthari security system. Mina laughed. That was before my time. But yes, we have a reputation now. Would you like to hear the full story? The visitors nodded eagerly as Mina led them through the great hall. She passed under the place where the Eternal Lock hologram used to be displayed. It was gone now, replaced by something new. A simple message in 100 different languages. The best question is the one nobody thought to ask. Up on the observation deck, Una watched the new arrivals through a display screen. She did not know them. She would probably never meet them. But in a small way, they were her legacy. The beginning of something that would grow far beyond anything she could imagine. "You should rest," Ithara said gently. "You have been working too hard." "Soon," Una promised. But first, Taiho found 3 new weaknesses in the backup systems this morning. "We need to fix them before the end of the day." Ithara made the wind chime laugh that Una had grown to love over the past year. Of course he did. There are always more weaknesses. Always, Una agreed. That is the whole point. The work is never finished. The questions never stop. We just keep asking, keep looking, keep finding new ways to solve old problems. She turned away from the window and headed back toward her office. There was work to do. There was always work to do, but that was fine. That was exactly how it should be. Behind her, the stars burned on in the endless darkness. Countless points of light. Countless worlds. Countless species looking up and wondering what was out there. They would find out soon enough. The humans were coming. And they always found a way to plug something in.